So nothing got approved. I mean, I don't know how many people are gonna have show up to this thing, so you're on mute.
Yeah, I think the election is probably distracting the whole world today.
I don't know. I don't know. We're gonna find out though.
We're about to find out.
All right, we have 3 people waiting. Well, now we have 2 people waiting. One's an AI bot, two AI bots. Remove the bots. Remove the bots. I don't allow bots in my calls.
Oh, there's that wind. Oh, it just swept my yard clean.
Um, all right, let's start letting people in.
What up, Austin? What up, Tim?
Hey guys, how's it going?
All right, how are you?
Doing well.
What up, Alan?
I don't. What I
Good to see you, man.
okay.
Alan, how's your business? You got deals you're working on right now? You are there.
Actually, yes, but not flip.
Okay.
Uh,
Have you flipped before or no?
no, not me. I work with, I don't know if you know Brandon Lyons
Yep.
and Clarissa. I'm basically I'm finding their properties in Reno. I'm
Awesome.
in New Jersey right now, but I'm finding their properties, and they actually I find the properties to be flipped. They go look at it, they buy it, and they flip it. But I'm in how would I say? I'm in the process, but I haven't touched anything with flips.
All right.
But I know how to find properties. That's the
That is a very valuable skill.
and
Awesome.
not only that. I comp it and I do the comping. I do the estimate, the repair cost, stuff like that.
Awesome. I'm guessing you're back, so you're getting some good value from these. So
Oh yeah.
thank you for showing up, man. And look forward to your questions because you're in the business every day doing the things. So
Yeah.
you know, you should have some good ones.
I got actually a question from yesterday. Nothing to do with it's something with loans because I've never heard of that. Somebody said that when you get the loans, I'm not sure if it's just for fix and flip. The banks want you to have a reserve. Am I on the right subject or no?
It
Is there?
depends on your lender, and what you have set up, but yeah, that's definitely a not out of the ordinary for a bank
Okay.
to expect you to have reserves.
So basically, you just need I don't know 20,000-30,000 just in the bank, not touching it.
I mean, I don't think it has to be that high. If you have, I mean, I guess it depends on the project you're doing,
Yeah.
but
Yes. Yes.
you know, if you're doing an average size house, I don't think most lenders are going to ask you to have a $30,000 reserve.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, the lender should let you know what their guidelines are.
Because I've never heard that before. Yesterday, I was listening to somebody and they said that.
Yeah. Yeah. It really depends on your lender. And that's why, you know, Dave and I jumped through a bunch of hoops to become a Chiavi Pro member. Because, you know, once you're a pro member and you get qualified for that and you get underwritten for that, you don't have to jump through any hoops ever again.
I believe that's what Brandon and Clarissa uses, and they it's simple, very like simplified.
Yep. Yeah. I
You
mean,
have to choose your battles.
Getting the approval is hard, but once you have the approval, you literally just go onto their portal and you put your deal in and it's approved basically. As long as the numbers pencil out, it's approved. You don't have to worry about reserves or any more credit checks, any of that kind of stuff. It's already done.
Yeah, you know, you have to choose your battles in this business. And generally speaking, I like the path of least resistance. And so Jeremy and I, we actually spoke about this earlier today, going through some of our private lenders and what their rates are. And there's some lenders, you know, be it our hard money lenders or private lenders, where we sometimes are totally fine paying a little bit more because how easy they are to work with. So, to that extent, Kiavi for us is just super predictable and consistent and easy. And could we get a half a point, a quarter of a point less on a rate? Look, if we're doing millions of dollars of flips a month, then that starts to add up. But like at the general volume that most people are operating at, it better not kill a deal. If it does, you shouldn't be in that deal. So,
Okay.
no two lenders are created equal, and you find the ones that work for you at this phase in your business, and maybe over time you graduate. But and it was a little add-on to your initial question about
No, it's
reserves.
it's good to know everything because this comes around and you're like, you need a reserve, you didn't depend on it, or which lender to pick. That's important stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and having a lender that you trust, and we've gone through several lenders, we've tried several lenders, we've discussed terms with a lot of different lenders, both private lenders and like DSCR type lenders, fix and flip lenders. And there's pros and cons to each of them. So just know who you're dealing with and make sure they fit your business.
'Cause my intention is to move to Pensacola next year. We're Austin, actually, over there. I know him from over there. And over there's a lot of flips. So
Yeah.
like it's in New Jersey is not too much, in Reno very hard to find. Everything's done.
Yep.
It's like crazy. Everything's done.
Hey, I want to make a quick announcement to everyone before we wrap this call. We're trying new things to figure out how to serve you guys best. And so this Thursday, we're going to switch it up and do our first Q&A. And this is designed specifically for you guys to come and tell us what you need right now, like for us to solve problems that you're specifically facing in your business right now. Because we could go spend a bunch of time building that course and doing all kinds of things, and then you guys, it turns out you don't need or want any of it. So we're going to start with Q&As. We're going to test this. We'll do one Thursday. It's on the calendar. Would love for you to be there. Invite friends, whatever. But this is the goal of these is to solve the problems that you guys are working through right now, because we've probably seen most of them. Jeremy has run accountability calls for a group of investors for 4 years now. And our job, we always looked at our business was to go create problems and solve them so we could be a better resource for other people before they get to that problem. And we've paid coaches and people we've gone to that have done that for us. So leverage us, guys. We've made a lot of mistakes. We've learned really well what not to do. That's one of the things we pride ourselves on. So would love to be a resource for you. So if you're available Thursday, show up to the Q&A with problems. That's your homework. Bring real problems. Go mess things up and then bring them back to us.
All right, it's 12:08. So we do unfortunately expect a slightly lower turnout today. We're definitely fighting the election. I think a lot of people are taking their lunch break to go vote. And also we're fighting the powers that be in the Facebook world. Multiple posts we put out today letting everyone know we're doing this have not been accepted yet, and they've been sitting for hours and hours and hours. So I will probably get inundated this afternoon with requests to join the Zoom from several hours ago. But no one knows about this Zoom today except for a small handful of people that managed to see a couple posts. So we're going to rock with the 7 we have on board right now, and hopefully a few other people will filter in. But it is what it is. So feel free to chime in with any questions at any time, especially being a small group. This is absolutely an open forum. I have a presentation I will go through, so it'll be very similar to the last ones we've done. But if anything seems wrong, if you disagree with something, if you want clarity on something, just unmute yourself and shout out what you got going on. If you're somewhere where you can't chat, just type it in the chat, the side chat, and Dave will make sure he monitors the side chat, so we'll get your questions answered. And most likely we won't just type a response back to you. We will read your question out and answer it live. So All right, cool. So let's go ahead and jump into, give me a second to get my screen set up. And all right, can you see that? Dave, can you see that okay? Okay, cool. Let me just move this around a little bit. All right. So first things first, I put this little tagline on here, the art of properly pricing deals. The reason I say that you're going to see a common theme as we go through all of these slides. Underwriting is both a science and an art. There are rules to underwriting, and almost every rule has an exception to it. So the goal of these calls is to give you a good enough foundation that you understand the rules, you have that foundational knowledge of what you should be looking for and the thing you should avoid, but you also understand it well enough that you can look at it as an art and know when to tweak the rules, know when you're making a good decision or a bad decision trying to bend any of the rules. Okay. And there's almost going to be no part of this presentation where I don't tell you what the exception is going through here.
And remember, at the end of the day, the goal is for you to have confidence on making a yes or no decision on a deal. You're never trying to convince yourself. And if you do find yourself trying to do so, use that as an opportunity to not do the deal. That's kind of how we look at it. We leave money on the table, I guarantee it, compared to what a lot of people would say yes to, but we generally like to run a risk-off business. So, use your own risk tolerance, but the goal is confidence, and that comes from repetition and having a system in place.
Okay, so let's get into the underwriting basics. First thing, how do you get your data, right? If you listen to a lot of people, they will tell you you have to get MLS access. If you want to have the best data out there, you have to get MLS access. I can tell you, in our business, we have never had MLS access in the markets that we operate in. Doesn't mean if you have access to an agent or you are an agent, you shouldn't look at the MLS. I'm just telling you, do not let it stop you in your business. If you don't have access to the MLS, it is not necessary for underwriting deals. The caveat to that is if you happen to be in a market where the public data is not super accurate, or you're in a non-disclosure state, it can help to have MLS access, obviously. Okay. For the most part, though, it's not necessary. So what do I use? If I'm underwriting a deal and it's a normal plain Jane deal, nothing crazy, nothing like super rural, I can probably underwrite that deal in 2 or 3 minutes using Zillow without a problem. Zillow gives you enough data to give you the confidence to say yes or no to a deal. Now, if you want to dive deeper to get your numbers in like down to the penny, you're going to need to make sure you're verifying all of your data. But we use sold data inside Zillow. You can also use realtor.com. You can use Redfin. You can use PropStream if you have it. We've had the question asked, well, what about Privy? Absolutely. If you want to use Privy, I've never personally used it. I think Dave has used Privy a little bit. I think we've all been on a Zoom with Pace about Privy at some point in the past handful of years, but I never got comfortable with the program, and I don't feel comfortable personally letting some formula and some AI tell me what it thinks a deal is. Right? I want to underwrite myself. I want to underwrite with the foundation that I use for underwriting, and I want to know that I'm not trusting a system that I can't verify. Okay. All right. So the absolute first step, we have hired a bunch of people in our business. The first thing we do every time we try and show them how to underwrite Number one rule is to find your neighborhood. Okay, so why do I say this? You will hear agents, you will hear appraisers, you will hear other gurus tell you, look at a half-mile radius outside of your property, a quarter-mile radius outside of your property, whatever number they throw at you. Realtors will usually use a mile. I think appraisers use a mile as well. We do not ever leave a neighborhood for multiple reasons. If you just think about it logically, if you live in a community, the community next to yours could be similar to yours. Odds are it's got some defining features that make it different than yours. It might be slightly more expensive. It might be slightly less expensive. It could be younger or older. The houses could be bigger or smaller. It could be one neighborhood over. It could be in a different school district, right? So first things first, never, ever leave your neighborhood. Now, what do I mean by that? So this is just a quick snapshot of just a Zillow image to give you an idea. Now, this looks like a lot of, master communities throughout the US where, they have hundreds, if not thousands of houses inside of what's considered one big master neighborhood. But within that neighborhood, there are sections, right? And that's the way my neighborhood is. There are sections of my neighborhood. I think we have somewhere in the area of 2,000 houses in our neighborhood. But each section may have a couple hundred. And each section has its own characteristics. It's built at a different time than the other sections, and it may have bigger houses, smaller houses, totally different. So if I'm looking at this image here, what tells me where I want to be and what I'm using as a comp? First things first, Caldwell Mill Road runs right down the middle here, not crossing it. I don't care where you're looking, you're not crossing Caldwell Mill. So anything on the left is going to stand alone from anything on the right. Right. So these might as well be two totally separate neighborhoods, even if they are inside of the same neighborhood.
Guys, we get a lot of deals sent to us from wholesalers, and by far, I think this is it. If I could blanket the entire industry with one piece of advice, it would be this right here. It would be defining the neighborhood, making sure you're comparing to the right comps. It's so easy to look at this and just be like, oh, it's one community. The rules are there for a reason. Don't cross a major road. It's such a big one. That's generally speaking, you can usually box your neighborhood in by major roads. Jeremy's going to get into a little more detail on this, so I won't, cut that off. But defining your neighborhood, if there's one thing that I would suggest practicing above all else, and start like comparing as you see other wholesalers send you deals. If you're buying from wholesalers, like run their numbers and be like, oh my God, they're taking comps that they totally shouldn't have. I see why this is off now. This is going to make so much sense to you now that once you've seen this, you can't unsee it.
Yeah. So, in this situation right here, let's just say we're on Crossing Lane. That's the house that we are trying to underwrite, which is this road down here. It's like a U, right? An upside down U here in the bottom right-hand corner. Well, with Crossing Lane, I mean, I believe this is a picture of 3-year sold data. So there's obviously a lot of comps on here. But with Crossing Lane, I'm going to want to stay on this road. Like I'm going to kind of go in priority, how I'm going to eliminate things or include things. I'm going to stay on Crossing Lane. That's my first rule. So I'm going to look at 6-month data of just this road, and I'll even go over to this side of the road. I'll stay on Crossing Lane. From there, if I don't have 2 or 3 sold comps in the last 6 months, the next thing I'm going to do is go maybe onto Crossing Drive, this street that goes down the middle. But I'm going to just go ahead and guess Crossing Lane and Crossing Drive are going to be different. They're just going to be a very different road. Crossing Drive, this comes all the way from the entrance and runs straight through the neighborhood. So you probably have way more traffic on this road. Crossing Lane probably has more of a neighborhood feel, quieter side street than Crossing Drive, right? So you have to look at all these things. I want to know on crossing lane, what's 6 months? I'll look at crossing drive, but what I'm gonna do next is go 12 months out. And now I want to know, okay, what has sold in the last 12 months on crossing lane? If I don't have within 12 months, if I don't have at least 2 sold comps on crossing lane, I'm going to go 24 months. And I'm going to go 24 months because I want more data and I want to see if anything is sold in 24 months. If you only still have 1 or 2 houses in the last 24 months on your road, and we're not getting much on crossing drive, and you're seeing a couple sprinkled through here, throughout, not this side, but throughout, like up this way on top of crossing drive, I'm at this point going to argue that you shouldn't touch this deal, right? Because you don't, without having firsthand knowledge of this neighborhood, which we'll get into that in a second, I don't have enough data to feel confident that if we fix and flip a property and bring it to the market, it's going to sell fast, right? That is the purpose of everything we do within fixing and flipping. Every one of our systems and processes is set up to allow us to sell a house as fast as humanly possible. We want our rehab to be fast. We want our days on market to be super fast. We want to be in and out so our lenders get their money back within 3 months. Now, that's not the market we're currently in, but up until about 2 months ago, that was the market we were in. Every single deal we did, we were in and out within 3 months. So if I come to a neighborhood that has only 2 sold comps in the last 24 months, I'm going to underwrite the deal and try and put a number on it. And if I say, okay, well, my number on that deal, let's say it's 425,000. I'm just looking at the kind of the average here. Say it's 425,000. Okay, I'm going to put 425 in my calculator and I'm going to see how that pencils out. And if it pencils out as a thin deal, on to the next. We don't do it. If it pencils out as a really good deal, and I mean by really good for us, that's well over $50,000 net profit. That's like a really solid $60,000, $70,000 profit. That's a really solid deal. What I'm going to do at that point, we're still not doing the deal, right? Because I don't feel confident that it can sell fast. What we're going to do at that point is we're going to have a conversation with our realtor. We have a realtor on our team in each of the markets that we work in. So we're going to have a conversation with our realtor and we're going to say, hey, Mrs. Realtor, what do you know about crossing lane? What do you know about that neighborhood? If you were to get a property there, do you think it would sell quickly? And she is going to come back to us and she's going to give us what we want to know. She's going to say, oh yeah, I have buyers that would love a property there, but nothing ever comes for sale. Awesome. That's what you want to hear. Or she's going to say, yeah, nothing ever moves there. Last time the property came on the market, it sat for 4 months. All right, we're out. That's it. We're out. We have no interest in being involved in a property that's just going to sit on the market. Okay. Any questions on that? Because I kind of crossed over to some of the things I'm going to talk about again, but that's what I'm looking at when I first see a property and I look at the neighborhood. Any questions? No. Okay, cool.
Sorry, Jeremy.
Who has learned about defining neighborhoods in that way before? Is that new to you guys, or is that something you've heard somewhere else?
I heard of it. I do this every day.
Yeah.
I love it, Alan.
I don't even go that far away as you did. I try to stay really close, like 1 street. That's it.
That's perfect. If you can do it, that's the best. Yeah.
And the more you do it, like I can do this good. That's like, the more you do it, you just know. I look at it and it's like nothing matches here. You just next. That's it.
Yeah, look, when you're brand new to the game and you're wholesaling, it's okay to be a little sloppy and go outside the range because, you're protected with your clauses in your contract. You can walk away, lock it up, let your buyers tell you if you were right or wrong or how far off you were and fly it up the flagpole. But when you're a little more experienced and you're making decisions to tie up your own money or other people's money and take on risk, taking a property down, that's when this becomes super important, understanding all these little nuances.
It's even worse with other people's money. As in my case, I'm like very careful, more
No,
careful.
100%. I hate to say I care about other people's money more than my own, but like I want to sleep at night is my rule. And if I'm scared that I put someone else's money who they worked hard for and is trusting me into a situation where I may not be able to pay it back easily, and now like at the end of the day, your relationships with your lenders is the most valuable relationship you have in this business. I mean, it's a super small world, so all of them are important. But at the end of the day, burning a lender, like good luck getting a lender again. Like the community becomes really small once you've burned a lender and the lender starts talking. So, our general rule is, hey, I'd rather be conservative, not do a deal, and know that I can confidently go into one that I feel certain that we put the right numbers on it. It's going to be profitable. Our lender's getting their money back. We're getting our money out, and it's rinse and repeat. You're never trying to hit it out of the park on a deal. You're trying to do the next good deal. Keep building your credibility packet so it becomes easier and easier to do more and more and more. Consistency wins in this game every time.
Absolutely.
Can I butt in with a quick question?
Yeah.
Just on that, do you ever deal with streets that are so long that you have to assess that they're different from one side of the street to the next? You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
essentially
Yeah.
your
If you're in like
neighborhood shifted.
you're in like a grid kind of community, you're saying?
Yeah, like there's giant crescents and different things that like
Yes.
sometimes they're like, how do you look at that?
Yeah, so with those, I'm gonna try just like Alan just said, I'm gonna try and stay within one, maybe two blocks. Right. So let's just say we're on First Ave and First Ave runs for 10 miles. Right. I want to stay within 1 to 2 blocks of wherever I'm at on First Ave. And if I mean, you mentioned side of the street, so you could also look at, depending on where you are, sides of street can matter a lot, right? Because if you have an exterior facing street, in other words, if you're walking down a street, the left side faces the main road on the outside, or it faces industrial, or it faces whatever. It has high tension power lines back there. They're gonna have a different valuation and a different, even if they don't have a different valuation, they're gonna have a smaller buyer pool, which for us is hugely important, right? We want to make sure our properties that we get involved with have the biggest buyer pool possible because that helps you sell it faster.
Also, you can do the street view and you just walk a couple of blocks and you can see how the neighborhood is. That's what I do a lot.
Yep. Yep. Google Earth is your friend.
Google, yeah, Google Earth, yes.
Yeah, we use that tool every single day.
So then when you're assessing, Jeremy, if you say in your example of power lines, would you just start to decrease what the ARV is on that? Or like you just by a sense of, is it just by experience, or you just go, this maybe has enough things that we just don't even want to touch it?
We sort of not to their extreme, but we sort of look at most of our properties that we are going to buy from a hedge fund's buy box standpoint, right? Like hedge funds have very defined buy boxes for a reason. They've run all their numbers, they have all the algorithms, they've got all the smartest people out there telling them what to do. They don't buy houses that border high tension power lines. They don't buy houses that border industrial. They don't buy houses that border main roads. They don't buy houses that are on main roads. Right. So we kind of try and take the same stance. And if we see that there's a high tension power line in the backyard of a house, it's a real good chance we're not going to touch it. But like I said, going into this, if the deal pencils out and it's got $100,000 spread on it, and we like the neighborhood and we think, it might sit for slightly longer because of the power lines, but will eventually sell. It's a very desirable neighborhood. We'll probably do that one, right? Because that $100,000 deal that penciled out that way, even if we have to lower the price to get more eyeballs on it, still going to be a great deal. But we'll not.
Thanks. No, it just helps knowing your thinking process.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, anytime you have like that gray area where it's like, should we? How big's your spread? Do you have enough room to make up for whatever thing you're trying to overcome? Right? We put in the calculator and it spits out a $40,000 net profit. Everything better be perfect. It better not have a single thing that's going to eliminate any of the buyers out there.
Yeah, you stick to the rules until there's a good reason to break the rules. What was the one we did, Jeremy, that was like $600,000 house, had over 100 grand spread? Like
Lancaster.
it was a little more rural on a bigger lot size and a little more reno than we're used to, but the spread was so big that we're like, all right, let's factor in for that. And even if we're way off, on hold time, because an asset at that price point takes longer, like are we still confident that there's a big enough spread on this thing that we're willing to take the gamble? And let's have that conversation up front with our lenders that like, hey guys, we're going into something a little out of our norm. Here's why we're doing it. Here's what we expect. Here's how we feel protected if things go wrong, which means how you're protected with your money if things go wrong.
Yep.
So just mentally walk through all the reasons you're like, why is this a good idea?
Because it had a huge spread. Yeah. Okay. Price per square feet. So with price per square feet, what we do on this, we run our calculations based on price per square foot, and we expect the sale prices to sort of run in line with that same thought pattern. Our realtor in Charlotte runs everything on price per square foot. They don't really do that here in Birmingham, in the Birmingham houses that we deal with. But we like to know price per square foot. It helps with our rehab calculations, and it's just something to keep an eye on when you're underwriting your deals. It's not the end all be all for sure. And then unique characteristics. Always pay attention to unique characteristics of either your house or the comps you're trying to look at. And what kind of characteristics would they be? Easiest one is a pool. If you have a pool, make sure you're looking at houses that have a pool. If you don't have a pool, and depending on where you are in the country, if you're in Florida and you don't have a pool, you're in trouble because most of your comps probably are going to have a pool, and it's going to be really hard to, put a number on how much you have to reduce your sale price because you're flat out eliminating a lot of your buyer pool. Right. So make sure you pay attention, make sure the unique characteristics of a house match up with what you're trying to use as comps. Okay. And that could be size of your yard. You might have, every house in the neighborhood might be a quarter of an acre, but you have a half an acre for some reason. Like that definitely makes a big difference. Just pay attention to the details. Okay. Any questions on that stuff before we get into automatic disqualifiers? Okay. So automatic disqualifiers, I already kind of touched on this. This is sort of the hedge fund mentality. What will just second I see it, kill a deal? Okay. First one, very limited comps. I already went over this. Why is it important that we just pass on something with limited comps? Well, first, it's really hard to be confident in your number. You're doing a lot of guessing, and you're having to really know that market very, very well to understand if that one house that sold a block away 6 months ago was in the exact same economy as you are. Was it exactly were this was the same amount of people looking to move to that area at that time or now? It's really, really difficult when you have very limited comps. So for us, we'll just pass. We'll flat out just pass. If there's not enough comps, you should not be bringing a product to market in that area. Okay. Now, if you're buying something because you think, hey, I think that area is a great area and I want to buy it for a long-term hold, that's a different story. We are underwriting for fix and flips and for basic wholesaling. So limited comps should be a killer for you. Double yellow line roads. Again, not saying you cannot do a deal on a double yellow line road, but it is a massive, massive red flag for us. Who is your big, if we are, I guess I didn't really talk about this and I should have. What do we look for in our fix and flips? What's our buy box? We want median priced houses. So we want to be in our markets, we're mostly Birmingham and Charlotte. In our markets, we want to be somewhere between around a $250,000 ARV and maybe a $450 ARV. Right? We will go a little higher than that. Probably really won't go lower than 250, but we want to be in what we consider the median price point, because we know the median price point has the biggest buyer pool. Right? You have a lot of starter homes, a lot of first-time buyers buying these types of houses, starter families, right? Either have or about to have little kids. So if you just think about it from the buyer's standpoint. If you are buying a house and you're starting a family, or you have 1 or 2 or 5 little kids, do you want to have them growing up in a house that is on a double yellow line road where cars are constantly driving by all day long at 40, 50, 60 miles an hour? I wouldn't do it. Right? So it automatically eliminates a very large percentage of your buyer pool. Can you flip a house, make it look beautiful and sell it? Yes, you can. 100% you can do it. It's probably going to take you longer. And it's also really hard to comp those if you don't have another property that's also on that double yellow line road. Right? The house right behind it might look like a comp to you just looking at Zillow, and it's not. Very different buyer buying inside the neighborhood than buying out on the yellow line road. Okay. Under 3 bedrooms and 1,000 square feet. Again, same thought patterns. We want to make sure that we have what would be considered a starter home, at least, right? Have at least 3 bedrooms. You want mom and dad and 1 kid to each have a bedroom, and then you want to have a guest room, or you want to have an office, right? So most buyers want at least a 3-bedroom house. In certain markets, you can get away with a 2-bedroom house, but in most markets, especially the ones we play in, 3-bedroom should absolutely be your minimum. That is every hedge fund's minimum is 3 bedrooms, and 1,000 square feet. Once you start getting below 1,000 square feet, they're pretty tiny houses, right? You really drop down, and you're eliminating a big portion of your buyer pool under 1,000 square feet. So, did I put the next one in here? So I didn't put the next one in. I probably should have. Along with 3 bedrooms, we do want a minimum of 1.5 bathrooms. We prefer 2 bathrooms, but 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath is the minimum for us. Next is the biggest house in the neighborhood. Just think about this one logistically. Super, super, super hard to comp the biggest house in the neighborhood. Usually if you're dealing with, you're direct to seller and you're trying to negotiate on the biggest house in the neighborhood, that seller knows they have the biggest house in the neighborhood and they think it's worth way more than it is because I'm so much bigger than my neighbors. The reality is, square footage, price per square foot does not translate when you go and get the biggest house in the neighborhood. You're still on the same, you're still in the same neighborhood. You're still probably on the same size lot as your neighbors are. And just because your house is bigger doesn't mean, if the neighbors are selling for 250, you're not going to sell for 400, right? The $400,000 buyer wants to be in a $400,000 neighborhood. They don't want to be in a $250,000 neighborhood buying the most expensive house, right? They want to be in like kind. If you can afford a $400,000 house, you want $400,000 neighbors. Okay, you don't want 250 neighbors. And then very unique layouts. This is really self-explanatory. If you get a weird house, the octagon houses, and so there's just some weird houses out there, right? That you don't have them in every neighborhood, you don't have them in every town, but when you find one, the sellers usually think they're super, super valuable, but your buyer pool is almost zero for those. So if you want to buy it and you want to hold it and you want to turn it into some sort of an experience, that's up to you. But if you're wholesaling or you're fixing and flipping, I would just stay away from very unique layouts, very unique homes. Um, unless you are something else draws you to that house, right? Like I'd gladly take an octagon house overlooking the ocean, right? Like that's a different story. An octagon house in some random town, USA, like that's probably a bad idea. Any question on the automatic disqualifiers? Okay. All right, rehab estimates. Now, keep in mind, we deal with median price point houses. If you were going high end, these numbers are not going to work. They're not even going to come close. You're going to get yourself in a lot of trouble. Median price point houses, when I'm initially looking at a deal, it's going to be $25, $35, $45 per square foot. And this is 25 is a lipstick rehab. This is paint and carpets, basically. Maybe changing some fixtures. $35 a square foot is going to be a little bit more of a mid-grade rehab. You may be doing some work to the kitchen. You're probably replacing all the fans and lights and some appliances. And then $45 a square foot is basically a full rehab. You're probably gutting it. You're replacing windows, maybe replacing the roof, doing the HVAC, things like that. These numbers, this is literally just a guide, right? You're never going to get this 100% by using these numbers because they don't take into consideration the square footage of the house and they don't take into consideration the price, the value of the house, right? So if, let's say you had a 700 square foot house, well, that's going to be pretty hard because price per square foot, you don't have a lot of square feet, but you still need to replace a roof, windows, and HVAC and do the entire interior, right? Different stories. Now you're throwing your whole thing off, but you're looking at a house that I said already was supposed to be eliminated. Okay. So median houses, regular square footage between 1,000 and 2,500, you should be okay with this formula. But then what do we do after we, okay, so after we do the initial look at it and say, okay, it's going to be $45 a square foot. Do we go and buy the house that way? Do we trust just my numbers, my random calculation, and we go buy the house and then we just cross our fingers and say, I hope we did a good job? No, we send our contractor out to the property. As soon as we possibly can get them in there, we send them out to the property. We get them to walk through and they give us a full scope of work. So they're going to go in and they're going to say, hey, I know the sellers told you that this thing needs, carpets and the cabinets updated, but it needs way more than that. And here's the full scope of work, line item by line item with prices for everything. Then we have a full scope and we know, okay, what we thought was going to be a $60,000 rehab is now a $90,000 rehab. And then that way we can either go cancel the contract or we can go back to the sellers and say, hey, I'm sorry, but after we went and saw the property, it's not exactly in the condition that you led us to believe it was. And our rehab estimate came in significantly higher than we expected. And we are going to have to cancel the contract, which will usually result in them renegotiating. And then, hey, if we were to buy this, we'd have to be here instead of what we discussed yesterday. Okay. But this 25, 35, 45 is literally just something for us to put in the calculator to figure out if the deal will possibly work or not. Okay. So when you're doing this, what do you need to know? The age of the big ticket items. We need to know how old the roof is, how old the windows are, how old the HVAC is. Make sure all of those things are accounted for. Because if you don't think about those things, it can get really pricey. Big one people forget about is the windows. Windows are gonna cost you between $300 and $500 each. And, you know, if you have a house that's got 20, 30 windows and you weren't thinking about it, having a, you know, $10,000 to $15,000 additional item on your scope of work, that will make or break a deal for you. Other things that people don't necessarily think about, decks and pools. More often than not, if the house is a little bit older, the deck is going to at least need some work done to it, whether it's just painting it or it's replacing some of the boards on it, replacing the steps probably. More often than not, the deck needs something. And if you don't think about that, there could be easily be a $3,000 to $5,000 bill that you weren't expecting. Pools. If the house has a pool, it's really important for you to know when the last time the pool ran. There's a big difference in the cost of cleaning a pool than replacing the liner, replacing the pump, and cleaning the pool and getting it all functional. Okay, so make sure you pay attention to that stuff. And then what level of interior updates are needed? And this is not just like, hey, how much has to get done, but also what level you need to bring the house to, right? Not every house needs to look like HGTV. It's very possible that you need to go in with mid-level grade stuff because you're in a neighborhood full of mid-level grade. Don't ever over renovate a house. It's just a waste of money. It's not going to make your house worth anymore. Okay. And a lot of people fall into that trap of like, oh, I'm going to spend 6 months making this the most beautiful house you've ever seen. And at the end of the day, it sells for what your original calculation said it should have sold for, but you put an extra $35,000 into it and ended up making next to nothing. Okay. Okay, here's our favorite part. For us, everything, especially in the past year, everything for us is risk off. I mean, if there's a part of our business that we can remove risk, we're going to do it. We'll see what happens after today. I think you're going to probably start seeing people getting back in the market and buying again, which would be fantastic. But the last few months has been an interesting time, right? We've had almost all of the buyers sitting on the sideline, and things went from selling in 2 or 3 days to we have 5 houses on the market now, and they've been on the market for 2 to 3 months with no showings, nothing, just crickets out there. So we want to reduce risk as much as possible. How do you reduce risk? Never, ever, ever need to get top dollar, right? So use conservative ARVs, right? If you're looking at an after repair value when you do your comps and it's like, all right, the after repair value that this is showing is around $300,000. We're probably going to put 285, maybe 290 in the calculator because we don't want to have to get 300. We'll probably list it at 300, but we want to make sure we have the ability to give someone seller concessions or a reduction in price, and we still hit our goal. Okay. Never, 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 never put the absolute top dollar in your calculator, because if that doesn't pencil out, you're in trouble. Always overestimate reno budgets. Same exact thing. If our contractor comes back and tells us a $60,000 renovation, we're going to put 70,000 in the calculator because something's going to come up. Again, it could be a concession. It could be, hey, we took down a wall and we realized that all the electrical is bad and we have to redo the electrical in the whole house. Stuff always comes up. Factor in longer holding times. Like I said earlier, for a while, we were in and out of everything in 3 months. And at that time, we were still putting 4 months in the calculator, factoring in an extra month, even though we never needed it. Right now, we're putting 6 months in the calculator. Okay, because we want to know, well, what if it does sit for 4 months and it does take us 6 months to sell it? Is it still a deal? Holding times kill you. right? So it's funny when I go through the calculator with people, or I put a post on social about the calculator, how many people don't realize, because if you don't fix and flip, it's hard to know, right? How much interest you pay and how many other bills you accumulate while holding properties. Even if it's holding it for 3 months, it's still a ton of money. So every single month, we had to deal with this with our employees, right? We had employees that made mistakes on deals, and it delayed things for us. And we had to let them realize that there were deals that literally cost us $100 a day. And like someone made a mistake that pushed us back a couple weeks. It's like, where's that $1,500 coming from? Right. So once you realize that every single day costs money, it becomes really powerful. If you're wholesaling, it becomes really powerful to know that, because you're going to look at your calculations very, very differently. And if you're fixing and flipping and you've never thought about you should have thought about that way. But if you haven't thought about that way, it will change the way you look at all of your SOPs and the way you run your business. Because it's very easy for you to need something from a contractor or need something for an agent, and you try and get a hold of them and they call you back 2 days later. Oh, well, I have to ask somebody. I'll see them this weekend at a party. I'll ask them then. But no, just that waiting time is going to cost us $400. You're not doing that. We need an answer today, right? And how do we get that done? We set the proper upfront expectations with our team. And our team doesn't just mean our employees. Our team is our realtors and our contractors, right? Like that's Dave's side of the business. He has that conversation with them when he brings them onto our team. Like, here's how we run the business. We would love for you to be a part of our team, but you're going to play by our rules. And this is how we run our business. And we're going to do business. We're going to do repeat business. This is not a one-time deal. So if you would like repeat business, we'd love to give it to you.
Yeah, if we're on the same page and we play nice together and our goals are aligned and we hit them, we'd love to keep working with you.
Yep. And then our favorite is trust your calculator. You have to, in this business, you have to be using a calculator.
Is there anyone not using a calculator? Doesn't matter where you got it from. Is anyone not using a calculator? All right, good. Well done, guys. Either you're not listening or you're all using calculators. Either way, I'm going to take that as a good sign.
Yeah, I put a post a month or so ago about the 70% rule being broken, and how you shouldn't be using it even if you're a wholesaler. And like the 70% rule has its place, right? It needs to be like a perfect deal for the 70% rule to be the perfect answer. But more often than not, you're just leaving so many factors out when you're just using the 70% rule. And it does not take much more work to plug all the numbers into a good calculator, right? The good calculator will show you not just 70% rule, it'll show you what a 1% rule buyer is going to pay for the house. It'll show you what a hedge fund 6 cap buyer is going to pay for the house. It's going to show you what a buy and hold investor is going to pay for the house. It's going to show you what you could pay for the house if you want to fix and flip it, right? And knowing all those things is so much more powerful than just 70% minus rehab minus $20,000 assignment fee. Like it's actually fun from our point of view when we know that our sales team is going up against a wholesaler trying to negotiate with a seller. So I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to tell you right now, this is exactly what that wholesaler is offering the seller. So all we have to do is beat that number and we got the house. Because they're not using a calculator, most likely. They're using the 70% rule. So other side of this, for us, if you are fixing and flipping, you should absolutely follow this rule. When we're looking at the calculator, I'm going to pull it up for a second. So this, can I make this bigger? Hold on one second. Let me make this a lot bigger so you can actually see. Okay. So in this calculator, we have estimated net profit and total return on investment. These both have to turn green for us. Otherwise, we don't do the deal. So estimated net profit, we want it to be above $40,000. We want our total ROI to be at least 12%. The reason this was so low, it's only less than 15%, is because it's a $575,000 house. Really hard to get a massive ROI on a $600,000 house. You see, our net profit was huge, $73,000 deal. So this one penciled out. It was a great deal. This is the one Dave referred to earlier. Above our normal price point. It had a pool. It was a little bit rural. There were a lot of things going against this house, but because it penciled out so well, this actually was when we initially put it in, it was a $600,000 ARV that we had. So this thing was penciling out as a $100,000 deal. I think our estimated repair costs were originally 90 and we went over, and we had to reduce the sale price. Right. So I think we had like 108,000 or something like that was our estimated profit going into the deal. And that's why you need to have that massive buffer, because we went from $108,000 profit down to 73. Still a great deal, but we lost $35,000 off what we expected to have on that deal. Okay. So if we don't have both of these, if we don't have at least a 40,000 net profit and we don't have at least a 12% ROI, we don't do it. We pass on the deal. Okay. And you can make your own numbers there. That's what we like. And, Dave mentioned earlier, we probably pass on more deals than we should. And there are certainly deals that we've passed on that other people would buy. But it's risk off for us. We do not want to get into a risky deal. And that's why we've never lost money on a deal. We came really close a couple times. And I'll be honest, there's one deal that if we didn't sell it on a seller finance wrap, we would have probably lost $30,000, $40,000 on. So this will keep you from making big mistakes. Okay. Where am I? Hold on. I gotta find my spot again now that I left. And okay. Also mentioned this earlier. If I did this exact same presentation 2 years from now, it would probably all be very, very, very different, right? This is for today's economy. We will not touch anything that is not median price right now. In uncertain times, you want your biggest buyer pool possible, and that will always be median price point houses. Okay, so we do not go low end. We do not go high end. We just stick to median. We want your average starter home. It just helps us find the biggest buyer pool with the least amount of risk possible.
Yeah, and guys, you got it. Like, our business model isn't the only business model. We're a slow and steady. Like, this is a marathon, not a sprint for us. We're not trying to hit it out of the park on one deal. So we like the most, the easiest asset class that fluctuates the smallest. We're not trying to get rich quick here. You can play in more risky asset classes and stuff, but like we just like the slow and steady. That's our business model.
Now, if the market corrects and 2-3 years from now things are back on the upswing, and the economy gets back to or not even the economy, the housing market gets back to like, I don't know, 2018 standards or 2021 kind of standards, you better believe we're going to get back involved in way more expensive houses, right? Because if you're in a phase where everything is just going up, yeah, get more aggressive, but this is not the time to be aggressive.
Yeah, in 2020, 2021, you brought anything to the market, it was like all cash, non-contingent bidding wars. The longer it sat, the more it was worth. Like, it was anyone can make money. That's not the current economy.
Yeah.
Will we play outside of median price point when that economy exists again? Probably. Will we start holding, assets that we want to sit on for for decades, probably. You have to look at where you're at in this part of your journey.
Yeah.
This is building a good, strong foundation that you can apply to whatever part of your journey is next.
Yep. All right. Any questions on anything? This is the last page here. So that's the end of the presentation. So any questions on anything?
No.
Awesome. All right. Well, like I said earlier, we knew this was gonna be a smaller crowd today. So thank you guys for coming on. Thursday, as Dave mentioned, we will have the Q&A, same time, same Zoom link.
And that's an open forum, not just underwriting. That's, whatever you're dealing with right now, bring that to us. Then we could just discuss whatever. If you have lender questions, if you have deal finding questions, if you have building a team questions, if you have SOPs on running a construction, questions, bring all of that stuff. If you haven't gone through our 5-day challenge as well, if you don't have any problems right now, go through that 5-day challenge, go do some of those things, create some problems, and then come back with specific questions.
Yep.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate the info.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
guys, thanks for showing up.
All right, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon.
Okay. All right.